We start the day's other headlines in California. A federal judge ruled today that the Trump administration's deployment of thousands of National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June was illegal. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer found that the administration, quote, willfully violated the law, adding that the government knew, quote, they were ordering troops to execute domestic law beyond their usual authority. The White House has signaled that it will appeal. The ruling comes as President Trump told reporters that he plans to send forces to Chicago, saying, quote, we're going in, but provided no timeline. Trump said Illinois' governor should call him to ask for help.
If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country.
Governor Pritzker immediately fired back, saying Chicago does not need federal troops and bristling at the idea of calling the president for help.
When did we become a country where it's okay for the U.S. president to insist on national television that a state should call him to beg for anything, especially something we don't want? Have we truly lost all sense of sanity in this nation, that we treat this as normal?
President Trump has pointed to gun violence over the weekend in Chicago as a rationale for why the city needs federal assistance. Governor Pritzker said today that the president would look for, quote, any excuse to put active duty military on Chicago's streets. The president's comments about sending troops to Chicago came during an event where he announced the relocation of U.S. Space Command. It's moving its temporary home in Colorado Springs to a new one in Huntsville, Alabama. The announcement reverses a decision by former President Joe Biden to keep it in Colorado and ends a 4-year battle between the two states over its location. Huntsville is already home to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center and the Army's Space and Missile Defense Command. In Afghanistan, the death toll from Sunday night's earthquake has risen to more than 1,400 people. At least 3,000 more were injured in the 6.0 magnitude quake. UN officials warn that those numbers could rise. Authorities are using helicopters to evacuate the wounded, but rough terrain makes many victims hard to reach. In rural villages, many were crushed where they slept as homes made of mud, brick, and wood collapsed. Survivors say they've now been forced to sleep outside.
Suddenly there was an earthquake and people were screaming. When we came out, we saw that my brother's house had collapsed. My brother's 3 children were buried under the rubble. Now we are very scared.
This is the third major earthquake since the Taliban took power in 2021. Authorities have asked the international community for assistance. In Sudan, an entire village in Darfur is gone after a landslide devastated the region, killing as many as 1,000 people. It happened after days of heavy rainfall in central Darfur's remote Mara Mountains. Photos of the rocky aftermath showed where the village once stood. The Sudan Liberation Movement Army that controls the area says only a single villager survived. Sudan is already suffering from a humanitarian crisis following 2 years of civil war with famine conditions in parts of the Darfur region. UN officials say they're mobilizing to provide support to those affected by the landslide. In the Middle East, Israel is mobilizing tens of thousands of reservists as part of its expanded military offensive in Gaza City. Newly released footage by the Israel Defense Forces shows army tanks being prepared. Some 40,000 reservists were due to report for duty today. That's according to Israeli Army radio. In the meantime, Gaza health officials say Israeli strikes today killed at least 47 people across the territory. Israel also repeated evacuation warnings to Palestinians in Gaza City, but residents say there's nowhere to go.
We ask for the war to stop. We reached a point where death is better than displacement. We will die in turn. I think we are moving dead bodies. We are dead already, just waiting for our turns.
Also today, the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry said that 185 people died of malnutrition in August. That's the highest total in months. Back here at home, a federal judge ordered Google to share its search results and some data with its rivals. The ruling is part of a landmark antitrust case aimed at addressing accusations that Google acts as a monopoly. Judge Amit Mehta also put restrictions on payments that Google uses to ensure its search engine is the default option on smartphones and other devices. But he stopped short of banning those payments outright. And Google won't have to sell off its popular Chrome browser. The move to cut into Google's operation is expected to ripple across the tech industry, and the company plans to appeal. American Vogue has a new editor for the first time in 37 years, though fashion legend Anna Wintour will still be calling many of the shots. Chloe Mao will be head of editorial content, overseeing day-to-day operations at the famed magazine. She's worked at Vogue since 2011, most recently as the editor of Vogue.com. Mao will report directly to Wintour, who no longer holds the editor-in-chief title. But as chief content officer at Condé Nast, Wintour will still oversee more than 24 brands, as well as the annual Met Gala. And on Wall Street today, stocks ended lower following the long holiday weekend. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped nearly 250 points. The Nasdaq also fell around 250 points as tech stocks cooled after recent gains. The S&P 500 posted its worst loss in a month. And actor Graham Greene has died.
We come far, you and me.
I will not forget you.
Greene is perhaps best known for his role as Kicking Bird opposite Kevin Costner in the 1990 epic Dances with Wolves, which earned him an Oscar nomination. As a member of the Oneida First Nation himself, Greene played many other indigenous roles in films like Maverick and The Green Mile. Over his nearly 5-decade career, Greene racked up nearly 200 film and TV credits. Along the way, he broke barriers for other Native actors and often advocated for their greater representation in the arts. Graham Greene was 73 years old. Still to come on the News Hour, advice on accessing COVID vaccines after the CDC changed its recommendations. A look at the career of former Fox host turned U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. And Lebanon works to disarm Hezbollah.
This is the PBS NewsHour from the David M. Rubenstein Studio at WETA in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University.